Hi everyone, welcome to your 6th grade Language Arts Digital Learning Object. This is Mrs. Mann, your teacher, and today we're going to talk about your final learning project, and I'm going to review some things we've learned this semester that will help you for your project. If you remember, we are not going to have a final exam in our class this semester. We're doing a project instead. So our digital learning object is a little bit different than last semester for that purpose and reason. So I'm going to go through what you will be doing for your final project, and then also reviewing some things that we've learned this semester that will help you as you complete your project. So for your project, this is a basic outline of what you're going to do. You're going to conduct an interview, and there's more instructions, of course, and guidelines that go along with this, but I'm going to do an overview just so you have an idea of what the expectations are and what kind of things you're going to need to know and review before you complete your project and as you complete your project. Okay, so you're going to come up with a list of potential people to interview, and you'll need to read through the instructions and decide some things prior to determining the person that you are going to choose, okay? And you're going to need to ask that person for permission and set up a time, of course. We'll go through a few of those things, but you're going to basically conduct an interview with someone. I have a large list of questions for you to pick from. You're not going to use them all. You'll pick a few. And then you're going to use the information from the interview that you conducted, and you're going to write a biography or a newspaper article. And we've learned about writing biographies and reading biographies this semester, and also about writing persuasive things and creating commercials and articles. So we're going to write either a biography or a newspaper article using a lot of those things we've learned. And then the third thing we're going to do is add media to enhance your work. And you've done this before, but we're going to kind of take it a little bit of a step further, and we're going to find media that directly enhances our biography or our newspaper article. And just to go back to the newspaper article, it will actually focus on a particular event in a person's life. Like, let's say they served in the military or something like that. The newspaper article will be centered around that particular event, unless you want to do it a different way. Again, if you read through the instructions, you'll see there's opportunity for you to come up with your own creative things, as long as you email me and discuss those. I want this to be your project. I want you to be creative with it, and take some ownership of it. So if you have a different idea, that's okay too. But the way it's presented for our project is that you kind of you need an angle when you're looking at an article. It's not going to be about a person's entire life most of the time, okay? It's going to be about an angle. And also, this person that you interview has to be an adult. That's also listed in your instructions, so keep that in mind. So once you've chosen a person to interview and you've asked permission, one of the things you need to do is to set up a time to interview this person. It doesn't need to be, hey, will you do this interview? Let's do it right now. You need to take some time, prepare for the interview, and schedule it with that person. Make sure it's a good time for them, okay? And along those be prepared lines, you need to make sure you have a list of questions. You may want to have something to tape the interview with, an audio recording device, or you may want to videotape it. There are some options here. You also want to make sure you have something to take notes with, okay? Because you're going to use the information that you're learning about this person and the events in their life, and you're going to write a paper about it. So you need to be prepared to do that. All right, so then we look at the next one. The next bullet says start the interview on time. If you've decided to interview this person at noon, you need to make sure that you start the interview on time. This person's time is valuable, much like when you call me for a DBA. It needs to be on time, so make sure you set that aside. Make sure you have it in your, that you're scheduled and that you know when you're expected to start, okay? That's respectful of the person's time. Be present in the conversation. This is not a time to be on your cell phone, not a time to be texting. I hope that you all know that, but make sure you're making eye contact. Make sure that you're asking questions, responding to the stories that the person is telling you. Make sure you're respecting the person you're interviewing, okay? They're sharing part of their life, they're sharing their stories, and that can be hard to do, okay? And it's a big deal, so make sure you're being respectful of that person. If they don't want to share something with you, if you ask a question and they don't want to answer it, that's okay. Sometimes we don't want to talk about certain things. Respect that, okay? And choose a different path or choose a different question, okay? Don't make it uncomfortable Let them kind of lead you, even though you're the one asking the questions, okay? Make sure you speak clearly and accurately. Again, make eye contact. These are all good tips when you're interviewing someone. And speaking with others, I write on here dress professionally. I'm not saying you have to dress up in a suit and tie or a fancy dress, but be prepared to work. Don't show up in your pajamas or your workout pants, okay? This is for class. This is for your work. Make sure you dress accordingly, okay? If you are ready to work, the person is going to be ready to give you a solid, good, thoughtful interview, okay? And at the end of this, of course, make sure you thank the person for their time. I'm sure that most of you know this, but a little bit goes a long way. When someone has taken time from their day and allowed you to share their story, make sure you thank them for doing so. Write them a note, write them an email, make sure you're sharing that you appreciate their time and effort. Okay, so you've interviewed a person and you have all of your information. You have hopefully maybe an audio recording or a video. You have your notes. Now what do? Well, if you chose to write a biography, you're going to start here. You're going to start with an outline. And if you remember, we learned about biographies and autobiographies this semester, so you can go back and look through that information. You can also read through biographies either at the library, on the internet. There's a lot of information about writing biographies. So review some of that information and kind of determine how your biography is going to be presented. Okay, I like to start with an outline when I write a paper. I think it really helps you to organize and make sure that all the information you want to share is actually in your writing. And along with your outline, you're going to need to choose a way to organize your story. So you'll see most biographies are organized by date. This is when this person was born, this is what happened in their childhood, etc. However, it's not always organized that way. So if you want to choose a different way to organize that, this is when you need to determine that. Make sure there is some organization to your biography. It will make a lot more sense to your reader, and they'll be able to follow along with the details and information you present. Also, you need to determine which details a reader would be most interested to read. You're not going to be able to include every single answer to every single question in the biography that you asked. So determine which details a reader wants to read, and what do they want to learn about this person, and what do you want to share about this person, okay? You need to write a thesis for your paper. What's the big picture of this person's life? You've done this many times. You know how to write a thesis. It doesn't need to just tell me when someone's born. It needs to tell me what you want to share for your paper, okay? What happened in this person's life? Why are you writing about them? What's the big picture, okay? And then after you do that, you're going to go ahead and use your thesis and your outline to actually write your paper, and all the things that you've learned about writing this semester. So if you need to review any of those lessons, you can go back and do so. And again, you can look for information about biographies in our lessons, but also when you read through other people's biographies or what they've written, that also gives you a lot of help as an insight as to how you may organize it or what details you might find important. So I always think examples are a good way to learn as well. So your second option for this project is to write a newspaper article. So you need to determine this before you interview the person. You're going to have to ask questions related to the story or the angle of the story that you are sharing about this person. Again, if a person served in the military or they were an NCAA athlete, you're going to need to ask more questions about that specific event so that you can share that part of the story. So you can share that angle when you are writing your newspaper article. Again, we want to start with an outline. It organizes all the things you want to write, and you need to choose a way to organize your story, okay? It's not going to be chronological, most likely. Maybe it will be, but it will be surrounding that particular event, not a lifeline, okay? So, and then again, you need to determine the thesis of your story. You'll have done this many times. What is the big picture? What do you want to convey to your readers? What are you trying to share? It's not just going to be so-and-so was an athlete or so-and-so served in the military. It's going to be the big picture. What are you sharing with your readers? Okay, and you need to add a catchy title. Every paper needs a title, but especially in a newspaper article, the things we pay attention to and what we want to read when we look at a newspaper article, we usually determine that by reading the headline. So make sure your headline is, one, appropriate for what you write, and two, make it catchy, make it something that your readers are going to want to read. And again, just like I talked about with the biography, examples are fabulous. Look through a newspaper, look online at a newspaper, okay, see what kind of articles are written about individuals or about a particular time in a person's life. How is it organized? What type of thesis is written for that story? See if you can determine that. All of those things are going to help you with your own newspaper article, and it will help you have a stronger writing experience. Okay, so just I always think that examples are a good place to start too. You've written your newspaper article or your biography. What's next? Next is coming up with some media options, some formats that we're going to add to our work. And you all know this, we've done this before, but this is going to be directly related to the person that we've interviewed. So all this media needs to be relevant to your writing, needs to be relevant to your paper, okay? And it needs to enhance what you've written. And we've practiced that before, but this is really important. You need to make sure that it actually comes from what you've written. Don't take a detail in this person's life that we haven't talked about or that is not in your paper and add that in a picture. That's not going to make any sense. It needs to be in an enhancement of what you have written about, okay? And it needs to tell more of the story. It can take one piece of the story, and by showing me a picture of it or listening to an audio or adding a chart, that might give the reader more information about this story or person. Okay, and some other media options. You can have pictures, you can have videos, you can have audio recordings. Some of you may come up with something else that might also fit in here, and that's okay. I would love it if you emailed me and said, hey, Mrs. Mann, I have this idea. Can I use this as a piece of media? That's great. That's completely fine, but you need to make sure you clear it with me before you use it, okay? And you're going to need to have two of these, two different media options. Don't just give me two pictures or two videos. They need to be two different types of media that enhance your work. Okay, so again, make sure this is your project. If you want to do like some sort of online poster, if you want to create a PowerPoint like you all did for your commercial, some of you did. Now, this is again in addition to your writing, so that's not the only thing I need, but it's in addition to your writing. But it's specifically related to all the information you've shared to this point. Okay, so be creative with this part. I want you to have fun with it, and I'm excited to see what you all share because you're super creative, and it's been really fun to see the things that you come up with, and hopefully this will be fun as it relates to a particular person or event. Okay, so we're getting closer to being finished with our project, and we're going to go back and do some things we've done many times this semester, and we are going to create your final draft. This is the part we're gonna make sure it's ready to turn in. We're going to edit, we're going to revise, we're going to review. And again, you all have done this with many papers and projects you've turned into me this semester, and I want you to be very careful about this part of your work, okay? I'm going to review some revision steps. And again, these are things that can help you with all projects and all papers that you turn in. And hopefully you're doing these things already, and this is going to be easy. But if not, make sure you do each of these steps. I want you to go back and read through all the instructions. I want you to look at the rubric. I want you to make sure you have all parts of this assignment complete. Okay? Did you complete your interview? Did you write a paper? Is it the right length? And has all the information you need in it? Do you have two different pieces of media? Do you have a statement of confirmation? All parts. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to grade something a student has turned in and they're missing a huge piece of it because they didn't carefully read the instructions. Okay? It's so much easier and better to turn in a whole project at once and be completely finished with it than having to go back and, hey, you forgot this part or you forgot this part. Make sure it's all done and turn it in. Be proud of it, okay? Read through the instructions and double check. I also need you to read through your writing. Every word, read through your writing. Make sure you're making those edits and revising your sentences where you need to, making sure your grammar and your spelling are correct. You may want to have someone else also read through your writing just to get a different perspective and maybe help you with some editing. I like to have someone else read my work because they may have different ideas or see something that might be able to be a quick fix that will help with the flow or how people receive the information. Make sure you've included a title. This is true for a biography or a newspaper article, they need a title. Make sure your name is written on there, that this is your work. Make sure you have 2 relevant media formats that go with your work, okay? That goes back up to those instructions. You need to make sure you have them and they're different, okay? And you also need to make sure you have your statement of confirmation, which we'll talk about on the next slide. And then if you have all of those things, then guess what? You get to turn it in. Yay. Make sure it's something you've worked hard on, that you're proud of, okay? You all are super intelligent and creative students, and I'm really excited to see what you come up with. I can tell when you've worked hard on something. I can tell when you've put the effort in, and I'm really excited to see what you come up with for this project using all the things we've learned this semester. Okay, and going back, this is just the last slide. This is the last thing we need to make sure we have included for our project. You need a statement of confirmation from the person that you interviewed. Okay, this is really important. I will not grade your work until I have this statement of confirmation. This allows me to, number one, know that the interview was completed, that the person is okay with you writing a paper and completing a project about their life or an event in their life. And I need that information, okay? So you can either have the person email me, they can call me, you can do an audio of the interview, an audio recording, you can do a video recording of the interview, you can have the person sign something stating that you completed the interview, and then you can scan and upload that to me. There are many ways. You can take a picture, like if you want them to sign something, you can take a picture of it and then upload the picture to me that, you know, shows where they say I was interviewed by this student. Any of those things work. I'm not going to be that picky about it, but I do need one. So again, I will not be able to grade your work until I have a statement of confirmation. So make sure that's included. Okay, so if you've done all of those things, then you're done. Awesome. And just like the Looney Tunes cartoon says, that's all, folks. Remember, I'm always here if you have any questions. If you have anything that you're confused about or you're stressed about, make sure that you look at the rubric. Make sure you look at the pacing guide. The pacing guide tells you to complete different parts by different dates, and that will allow you to make sure your project is completed on time. And again, I'm here if you have questions. So work hard. I can't wait to see what you come up with. And you know, just try to enjoy yourself as you complete this project. So thanks so much.